Hello everyone and welcome back to Las Vegas. I'm here as we have just wrapped up an incredible couple of nights of doubleheaders. Duke played. They got beat real bad by UCLA. We're not really going to talk about that here today. We're here to talk about Texas. We're here to talk about South Carolina and the game that went down to the very, very end where Rory Harmon just over there put up a midi to win it for Texas. What a week for Texas in terms of absolutely announcing themselves as being a part of that top tier. Texas is a team that we know is good. Absolutely no question about it. And obviously they've reached high heights. They've gone deep into March, but there is still like kind of the lingering feeling that you have your UConns, you have your South Carolinas. Tonight was absolutely an announcement in that way that, yeah, we're there too. And I think they have an absolutely strong case to be the number one team in the nation after this. Let's start there. You beat number 3, you beat number 2 on back-to-back nights. You do it in different ways both times. I'm not sure that, look, UConn, absolutely you have to win against Michigan. You've had good wins. You haven't done anything to lose that spot. But that is something that is unheard of in terms of building your resume up in such a quick amount of time. I have no problem with UConn being the number one team because I think that they probably are the best team in the nation still. But if you see Texas in that number one slot, I'm not going to have any quarrel with it whatsoever, because after this week, after these two games, after these two nights, doing it back-to-back against two of the best teams in the entire country, if you told me that these were matchups that we saw in the Final Four, I completely believe you. I'm not mad at it if that is what happens, but I'm also really okay with UConn staying at number one as well. Let's talk about this game. I told you, if you watch my video about the X factors for each team in the top 5, I told you about Jordan Lee. Jordan Lee, I said in that video, I'll say it again. I wanted to see more of her last year with her floor spacing, with what she did offensively, and how she helps Madison Booker. She makes Madison Booker's life so much easier. I asked Madison Booker about it in the post-game press conference you can find here on the YouTube. She makes her life so much easier. But what's so interesting is that she has evolved into so much more. That was the basis of what I wanted to see last year, was the floor spacing and what she brought. But it has turned into so much more because she didn't shoot the ball well from deep tonight. She was 1 of 6 over the course of this night from deep. 1 of 6, and she still ends up with, 19 points. 6 of 18 from the field. Look, it's not the most efficient. I'm not here to try and argue that, but she gets to the line a lot. She was driving. She was pulling up from mid-range. She has increased her game so much, and the role has grown so much. We know that Vic will play these guards from start to finish, but we thought it'd be Rory Harmon and Madison Booker. The role that she has been gifted, that she has been trusted with more so than gifted, of playing 40 minutes, of being one of the top defenders, of being so important in helping their post defense with the perimeter pressure like we saw against UCLA. We saw it again here tonight in a lot of ways. And to be able to help Madison Booker have a teammate that can truly go and just get a bucket when you need it, on top of what she's able to do offensively, is something that Texas hasn't had since Madison Booker arrived on campus. And that is absolutely a difference maker in terms of what tier they are on a national level here. And again, what an announcement to do it. Obviously, we're going to see this matchup again at least one more time. I mean, South Carolina, Texas, I feel like I've lost count, frankly, at this point, how much they've played since Vic has taken over at Texas, really since they joined the SEC. It's been a lot. It's been so much, and I kind of can't get enough of it. I love these matchups. It's not the prettiest basketball. I'm not here to tell you that, but man, it's fun. It's fun. Let's talk also about Madison Booker, because I thought the matchup of the night was Raven Johnson versus Madison Booker, and Raven Johnson was doing a great job on Madison Booker. She was so, obviously it's not the height. That's not the matchup in that type of way that you are looking for if you're South Carolina. You don't really have that type of defender like you've had in the past, like with a Bill, for example, like that can really match up with height, can be the defensive stopper in that way. But Raven Johnson is absolutely a top-notch defender, and she was in Madison Booker's grill the entire time. I put a tweet out during the game. I was like, I don't think that she's left Madison Booker's hip this entire game, and she hadn't. But there was a moment in the second half where Raven Johnson goes to the bench, and Madison Booker hits a couple shots. And from that point on, she was rolling. She was phenomenal. I think the Madison Booker mid-range shot is absolutely my favorite shot in college basketball right now. It's just so pure. It's so incredibly pretty, and it goes in more often than it does not, because Madison Booker is that damn good. To me, that's a future franchise player right there in the WNBA. I've been seeing her since her freshman year in person. That is the type of player that we're talking about here with Madison Booker. And this is a team now with Texas that obviously goes down to the wire against the South Carolina team. And who else but Rory Harmon? After the UCLA game, Vic Schaefer had talked about, yeah, we saw her scoring against UCLA. I mean, 25 plus points, whatever it was. Absolutely phenomenal from Rory Harmon. It was different tonight. Like Vic Schaefer said, she can impact and take over games in so many ways. Tonight, it was what we're kind of more used to with Rory Harmon with the 9 assists to 2 turnovers. That turnover to assist ratio is something that she is one of the best in the country about. She is one of the best in terms of figuring out when to go for her own shot, which isn't incredibly often because of how many offensive weapons they have on this team. We saw it against UCLA a lot. But the way that she's able to play make, to facilitate, and get everyone involved is top tier. And I mean, Vic Schaefer called her the best point guard in the country. She's certainly up there in terms of her impact and the way that she's been able to come off this injury that from last year, have a full summer to really be able to work and hone the skills instead of honing the body and getting back right in that way. You could tell the difference, and it's a big difference here. And we saw Cheryl Reeve here. That team could use a point guard late. I'm just saying, keep the eye emojis out. You go at the end of this game, it's tight, and you go to Rory Harmon, who again isn't the top-notch scorer on this team, isn't even a top 3 scorer on this team just in terms of points per game. But when Texas needs somebody, it's almost always been Rory Harmon since Vic Schaefer arrived and they arrived together. Rory Harmon is the safety net, is where this Texas team feels comfortable. And tonight, it's what pushed them over the top with her mid-range shot to put them on with like 0.07 seconds left. Puts them on top. I mean, what we saw from Texas this week is something that is massive in terms of how this changes the national scale of everything. I thought their bigs, who, look, you don't have the exact height and size that they had last year with like a Taylor Jones leaving, but the bigs did exactly what they need to do. And they're not going to be asked to give you the world. But man, Justin Carlton, these type of players, they were phenomenal over the course of these 2 games in terms of just being impactful, fronting the bigs when needed. And I'm leaving here so impressed with Texas. I do want to touch on South Carolina some. Medina Oko, look, I'm here for it. Fouled out, but I'm impressed. Like, this is not a game where it's like, oh, we got to start panicking about South Carolina by any means. Absolutely not. That's not what we're here to do. These are 2 of the top teams in the country. These are teams that could absolutely split more games coming up in the rest of the season because, again, they're going to play again. We're going to see this matchup again. If you told me that they start splitting these games, you wouldn't be surprised at all. It went down to the wire for a reason. I think in this game, you saw some of the bigs be able to be dominant. Joyce Edwards is obviously like the makings of an incredibly talented player are there, and she is a very, very good player. We've seen it again this week. We've seen it. Just trying to kind of, again, still a sophomore. And I think that showed at times tonight, just in terms of decision-making or defensive lapses, things of that nature. And I think that's something that can come with time, right? But frankly, you don't really have that option of anything different right now for South Carolina. Obviously, you have the injuries with Kitts and Watkins being out for the season. And it's not really another option here. So you're going to have to see Joyce Edwards kind of be forced to grow up in a lot of ways. And that's something that I think is going to be very interesting to see over the course of this season and how that works. And I think it's something that, again, obviously, we've seen bigs succeed at South Carolina. If there's going to be a program that can kind of work that out and maybe speed up the education process a little bit, South Carolina is part of the program I trust the most to do so. I think the lasting thing here also is that I want it to be easier for Taliah Latson. And I understand why Taliah Latson is at South Carolina. And I'm not saying that necessarily what they're doing right now is wrong. It's more that I want to see more in addition. And it's trying to figure out, how can you get Taliah Latson easy buckets? How can you get her rolling? And while not, you don't have to take away from the system that you're doing here. I feel like to do that, whether it's pick and rolls with the bigs or whatever it might be, there just has to be a way to find a balance. Because not only does Taliah Latson have to balance being a playmaker versus being a scorer and how to look at that in terms of the South Carolina system, but I think the South Carolina system has to balance having a player like Taliah Latson on your team. This is one of the best scorers that we've seen in a long time in the NCAA. And in terms of, like, she didn't have a bad game by any means, but that's not why you bring Taliah Latson in here. You don't bring Taliah Latson in to not have bad games. You have her come in to score the ball and win you basketball games. And I'm interested in seeing how that part develops. Again, not that anything they're doing right now is inherently wrong. I just want her to be more involved offensively. I think the defense has been great. I think that what you've seen in terms of her working within the system has been great. But we know what Taliah Latson is when she is the system. And not to say that she has to be that here, but I think you can find a bit more balance within that. And I don't know exactly what striking that looks like, while you also try and keep the bigs involved and things of that nature. But I want to see it in more of a fingerprint felt on the game here from Taliah Latson in that way, because I've seen it. We have so much respect for what Taliah Latson is as a player. I want to see that here with South Carolina, and I'm interested in seeing how that grows, and there's plenty of time. And again, this isn't a pulling the fire alarm or anything of that nature. I am just intrigued. We're putting the eye emojis on a couple of things here, but I think the biggest one is Texas the number one team in the nation? Again, the resume is now there in a way. You even had the win against Richmond, right? One of the better mid-majors out. Like, that's the type of stuff that we're talking about going forward, because Texas came in this week and proved, and I think in a lot of ways, answer maybe some of the questions from past years, right? Where you have these offensive lows and how you're able to kind of break through that. That was always the problem for me with Texas, was if you can't score the ball, what are you going to do? And I think that we saw this week that they're able to push through those moments and try and overcome those moments in that way. And that is something that is incredibly scary for the rest of the country, if that's something that they're able to make a more common and frequent thing here as they continue to go into tougher competition, go into the SEC, as we're about a month away from all of that stuff. I mean, less than a month, I think, now at this point, in terms of seeing conference play, seeing what we're going to get a feel for a lot of these teams as we get deeper into the season. But you look right now, and no one has made a bigger impression that is lasting on me than Texas and what I got to see here in person in Las Vegas. But this will conclude the boots on the ground. You can see all the press conferences. You can see my reaction to the first games here as well, all on the No Cap Space YouTube. You got to make sure you subscribe here, because we're going to have boots on the ground all throughout December. We're going to have it for conference play. You're not going to want to miss any of the stuff that we have going on. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited as well. You can find all the links down below to everything No Cap Space. Make sure you stay tapped in, and I'll talk to you very soon.